War. What is it good for? According to my notes, quite a lot. Let's talk about it.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
Hey, welcome back to CEH V12. I'm your host, Sophie, here with Daniel. We're going to talk about information warfare today. And I will tell you that I read the notes and I was like, oh, yes, we get to talk about war. Not that war is good.
No, it's not.
It's not good. I'm not saying
At
that.
all.
I just mean I was like, this sounds interesting.
It's an interesting subject. Absolutely. And that's why there are swaths of books written about wars, because we learn things from them, hopefully. And we have an information war that is going on a day-to-day basis. So there's some odds and ends about that we need to be prepared for in our day-to-day lives as cybersecurity experts. So we got a lot to get through. I say we get into it, shall we?
I say aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Motion passed.
So warfare, as I understand it, is when, you fight back and forth. I guess usually it's two countries fighting back and forth until one of them wins. What is information warfare?
So information warfare is, not that I have a definition or anything, attempting to gain competitive advantage through attacks against target IT systems. So basically, I think this is probably a pretty simple lift for us to understand, right? If Sophia is my perceived enemy in some fashion, whether that be a competitor in a space, like economically. So, she's you make hats and I make hats, and I got to bring down sophieshats.com, so danshats.com will do better, right? We are at some form of war, and I might go as far as to actually lob an attack against her and her organization so that we would have an advantage. That's not the right thing to do, but it does happen, and that's basically the idea behind information warfare. I'm trying to gain a competitive advantage in some capacity using information systems. There it is.
There it is. Okay, well, we made that real simple for us. So it's kind of a broad term, information warfare. It can mean several different things with different strategies, right? So
yeah, there's different ways in which you might actually see information warfare kind of rear its ugly head. I do have like a really cool, because I want to kind of show you the reality of information warfare. So if you look up one of these things, and this is not the only game in town, but this is Fortinet's cyber threat map. You can look up cyber threat maps or information warfare map, that kind of stuff. And here's one right here. And you can see in real time threats that are actively happening. And we can see, well, New York is having a bad day. There was a lot. Hey, there was one fire go bad. But bam, bam, bam. This is around the New York area. You can see the United States is constantly under some form of bombardment from some form of attack or another. We'll probably see a little bit over here in the European theater because, well, there's things happening in that area as we currently speak. So, yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see that there are attacks that are occurring. I don't know if you hover over these things. Some of these maps will do stuff if you hover over them, tell you where they're from. I know there is like a feed that kind of tells you down here what the attack is.
Wow.
And then the severity of it, as well as the location that it is occurring. So really interesting for us to just kind of keep an eye on things if we are in the security space and see the reality of the day-to-day that there are these attacks that are happening fairly constantly. That thing has not stopped rolling by and updating since I turned this webpage on, and it won't. So this is the reality of cyber warfare. There's a constant attack happening between nation states, APTs, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, right? So I just want to kind of point that out.
I'm a little horrified.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa. All right. Now that we're scared.
Yeah. Cry a little bit and then come back to me.
So one of the strategies that we were talking about before we kind of kicked off this episode was C2 warfare, or command and control warfare.
Yeah, this would definitely be a very common strategy. I just mentioned APT. They love using this kind of stuff as well. So C2, command and control. This is the basically centralized management of your compromised systems. So if I'm an attacker, I have compromised systems. I need some way to easily manage them, get them to do what I want, exfiltrate data, whatever I need to do. C2 tends to be a bit asynchronous and encryption and things that are used to help it fly underneath the radar. It's It's technically a type of malware, at least the little agent is, because it's doing something malicious in the background. So a little software package that checks back in with a server, and the server says, hey, here's what I need you to do. Why don't you run and fetch that for me? And it goes, no problem, and does the thing. Or it has some built-in command structure that it knows it's supposed to be doing constantly, and then checks that information back in with its command and control server as you do. So C2 systems, that is a very big deal. If you've never messed with a C2 before, you should totally find one. There's a bunch of open source ones out there. It might not be the best thing. A Metasploit, but technically is a C2 with its interpreter payloads and whatnot. Those are considered C2 as well. So really, really good way to go. But not the only game in town. We also have intelligence-based. It's another strategy.
That makes me think like military. That's what comes to mind when I hear that.
Yeah, so intelligence-based, I actually pulled up I found I like good definitions to help us be prepared, because, someone's probably answered this question better than we can. So let's go to that. This is from itlaw.fandom.com. Someone's a big fan of IT Law. But they did have a really good definition for intelligence-based warfare. The design and protection of systems that seek sufficient knowledge to dominate the battle space, and, which I really liked about this, the denial of such knowledge to the adversary. So basically, I'm trying to have the competitive advantage, right, of intelligence. If I know more than you do, and I can deny you intelligence about things that would be helpful to you, I win. Right? So that's why intelligence-based warfare is a strategy. If I control the intel, I win the battlefield. Okay? So that's why it's an important one. What else do we got on our list?
We got electronic warfare. So would that be like
Electronic
jamming
warfare.
stuff?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Wow.
Electronic warfare is basically attacking their electronic systems.
Okay.
In some cases, for instance, this might be a denial of service attack, but I want to reduce their ability to use electronics and communicate on the battlefield, right? This is a digital battlefield, and I want to be out on the in the trenches with rifles in our hands or whatnot. But we have our digital weapons, which are our computers and our cell phones and our IoT devices and all that. If I can stop you from effectively using those things, well, then I grind your business or your organization or your government down to hopefully a standstill, making you ineffective, right? So yes, electronic warfare or electronic attacks, good strategies, because if I can't use that stuff, then I'm going to have a hard time competing with you on that digital battlefield.
What about psychological warfare?
Ooh.
I feel like this is one that probably you have like a special interest in, just because I feel like Daniel's very good at like messing with me, just mentally. So I feel like this is, if anybody would know about this, it would be you.
Yeah, I have a special place in my heart for psychological warfare because, well, you're messing with people's minds. You're just getting upstairs and going, is that really how it's supposed to go? Maybe you should just quit, right? Is this really worth it for you, right? Getting in their head and getting them to think, this is an unwinnable thing, right? We just can't do this. So we were talking about this on Saving Private Ryan. There's a scene where the U.S. soldiers, they're going into France. They've just stormed Normandy, and now they're moving inward into the French territory. And they're in this shelled-out city, and they hear over this loudspeaker somebody talking in German. And one of the guys says, what's he saying? And he listens, and he says, he's saying the U.S. is kaput, the Statue of Liberty is kaput, all these things. You just give up. You've lost. They haven't lost. But that kind of thing can eat away at you psychologically and make you less likely to want to continue the fight. That is what psychological warfare is all about. I can do that through an email campaign, through websites, social media. I can attack and make you feel like it's unwinnable. And that's what psychological warfare is all about. And hopefully you just throw up the white flag and go, you know what, I'm done. DansHats.com is just apparently going to be the winner of the day. I can't continue to fight you. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the resources for it. And you keep telling me that I'm a loser. People start to believe these things, even if it's not true.
It's true.
Right? The more you say it, the more people's brain tells them, believe it.
Yeah.
So
It's true, Dan.
psychological warfare.
Dan calls me a
right?
loser every day, and it's after a while, it's like, yeah, maybe I am.
I do not do that, by the way.
He's got to cover himself.
Yeah,
here.
she's over here trying to get me fired.
Maybe this is a bad example, but there was somebody that I knew that they ran a company and they were a victim of a ransomware attack, and they basically were like, you got to pay us this Bitcoin or whatever, and I think that he ended up paying. He didn't know what to do. He wasn't he wasn't familiar with this stuff, so he ended up just paying. But he didn't know what Bitcoin was. Like he just had to call somebody for help.
Bitcoin.
Right? Yeah. But it ended up being that I don't think they had as much control as he thought, and so he probably could have not paid them, and it would have been fine. But it was like, we've locked down your blah 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 blah, and he was just like, God, okay, I guess I just have to. Would that be an example of psychological type stuff?
I mean, to some extent, yes, right? Because you're already at a disadvantage at this point.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, and that would be intelligence, right? They have access to information that you don't. They're controlling the narrative, and you're believing it. So a lot of these things can kind of, work themselves, and they have connections. It's not as black and white as we'd like it to be. But that said, I could see where. But usually when we're talking about psychological warfare, it is propaganda. It is right. The incessant and committal to making you believe something. You've never heard of something called struggle sessions, where they get people to, like prisoners of war, and they get them to say things, and they say, I know you don't believe it. We don't care that you believe it. Just say it. And as soon as they crack the lid on you getting to saying it, and well, that's okay. I can say it and not believe it, and they'll feed me food, right? But what you don't realize is that psychologically, after a while, they wear you down, and all of a sudden you start to believe it. This is Stockholm syndrome, right? You start to identify with your captors, like, oh, well, maybe they're not so bad after all,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all wrong, right? And I give in. Yeah, I'm with you now. That's more along the lines of like psychological warfare, really attacking the human psyche, and not just like, oh, I'm scared.
Okay.
I don't know what to do. I guess I'll pay.
Yeah.
That's more of a stick up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The knee-jerk reaction of fear, and not having any concept of what to do or how to deal with that, and you just comply.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Well, now I know. So sorry about that. I didn't mean to derail our discussion.
No, it's okay. It's a good conversation.
We have a few more types of warfare strategies, I guess we can talk
hit
about.
me.
What about hacker warfare?
Hacker warfare. Well, you got to think of hackers like the soldiers, right? These are the boots on the ground in your cyber war, or your information warfare, right? These are the people that are doing the attacks. So when they go to war with each other, it can get spicy, right? And we've seen this kind of thing before, especially governments versus like APTs, right? Where a government is completely trying to bring sanctions down. I think of like the Colonial Pipeline hack and things like that, and they were really trying to find these hackers, and when they can, and they absolutely finally like descend on some of these people and make an arrest. They parade them around, harsh penalties. I say that. I've seen some non-harsh penalties before. So it'd be nice if you really stuck at the people that are doing wrong. But that's what's up there. So just thinking about that. So they're the people that are attacking targeted systems. They're doing theft or damage. Really, like I said, the idea of boots on the ground is where you want to go with this. They might even be running disinformation campaigns fairly effectively, right? Like, we basically lying. I'm going to lie about what we can and cannot do, and what we can or have and have not done, so that you believe something that's not true, and therefore you're reacting to stuff that is wrong, right? Disinformation warfare is like, it's very effective.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
That's hackers.
He has a way of breaking this stuff down for me, because I walk in here and know nothing, and I leave here with new fears. So.
My goal is to just get everybody to think, well, just give up. No.
Just give up. Yeah, psychological warfare. There you go.
We got to fight hard.
Yeah.
You got to dig in.
Yeah. So what about, I would imagine economic warfare, would that be like you're attacking somebody's finances so that they don't have the financial power to do anything about it?
Nailed it. Okay. That's exactly right. And we've seen this recently when the Russian invaders into Ukraine, right? What did the U.S. do? And I actually looked it up, right? I was like, yeah, didn't we bring sanctions upon them economically? We did. I have the Department of Treasury right here. U.S. Treasury announces unprecedented and expansive sanctions against Russia, imposing swift and severe economic costs. I wonder if that was meant to be punny, because what they did was they made SWIFT sanctions. SWIFT is a payment system that they are no longer allowed to utilize for buying and trading in the world economy, right? They no longer have that capability to work inside of that system, which is called SWIFT. So like I said, you'll notice it's not all capital letters. So I believe someone was trying to be punny.
Yeah.
Here.
Whoever wrote that was in a silly, goofy mood that day.
Yeah, but you'll notice if we look at this, it talks about the top 10 Russian financial institutes now under U.S. restrictions, U.S. ready to impose additional major costs, going after them economically, right? Now, I can do that in information warfare as well. And this would be, honestly, because we're not boots on the ground people fighting in that war. We're supporting it in ways that we can, one of them being information and cyber and economics. So there it is. Right there, from the Department of Treasury saying, we are going after them economically. If you don't have money or you can't buy and sell, you can't support your war effort. But it trickles down to, that's a large scale right there. But again, going back to our, hat competition here, if I can damage her economically, like maybe I bring down her ability to process payments, right? So if I can lob a denial of service attack against her payment portal and no one can give a payment or make a purchase, I have now struck a blow to her economically.
And would that also be hacker warfare?
It would be a hacker that would be doing it.
Okay.
Right? Because it's not so much hacker warfare as in hackers are the soldiers in the war.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? Does that make sense? That's more of a better way to think about it.
But it's economic
But
warfare because
right.
you're impeding my ability to make money.
So I'm specifically going after your ability to support yourself financially.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's what we kind of want to go on that. And this can actually show itself in other ways as well, not just me attacking you, keeping you from making payments or earning money, but I can steal something from you, like intellectual property. So maybe you come up with a new way to manufacture the hats, and it's cheaper and a better quality product, right? Your R&D has developed new hat technology. I break into your systems with some hackers on my team. We find that, and we're first to market with it. Now that's ours. You didn't have a patent on it yet. We patent it, now it's ours.
Oh.
Guess what? You spent a lot of money on something you can't use.
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm making money off of your cool tech. Economic warfare.
What about like reputational damage? Like if you were to go online and be like, Sophie's hats, if you buy those hats, they'll give you lice.
Yeah.
She's got lice in her hats.
Exactly.
And maybe it's not true, but then like nobody's buying my hats now.
Right. As long as the AP print. See, it looks in Washington, D.C., Sophie's hats declared lice infested. And it's NewsGuard certified. All that stuff. Right. I could, even if it's a lie, somebody will believe it, and that could cause, and if everybody kind of gets on that bandwagon, even if it's not true, which is even better for me, it doesn't matter, right? Whether it's true or not, it's most likely not, though. It's just a big fat pile of lies.
Even if people don't 100% believe it, they might just be like, well, why would I take the chance?
Yeah, I don't want to take the chance.
Now nobody's buying my hats.
The doubt has been sowed.
Yeah.
And that's all I need. So now, dancehats.com has never had a lice infestation.
That we know of.
Doesn't matter. Not in the AP. So. There's not a subreddit.
Yeah, there's no subreddit dedicated to that. Yeah.
About your hats.
So
there you go.
So that's economic warfare. And then what about cyber warfare?
So cyber warfare, very similar to information warfare. I think of it as more like a subset of information warfare, or information warfare, the overarching, and then you got cyber warfare, a little more pointed, a couple additional features in there. This includes information terrorism, right? And this is specific to your, if you're trying to go for something like an exam, like we are, right? Information warfare, semantic attacks. This is the takeover of target systems whereby the appearance of normal operation is maintained, right? So think APT, right? So this is strict per se cyber warfare. APT is very much in that vein where they are looking to take over your system and hang out. That's the persistent part of APT, right? Hang out under the radar, not known until they're ready to make themselves known, or just exfiltrate and move on. Typically, it's like, why would I? If I can live here and have control and no one knows, I'll just keep doing that. Like, what's the purpose of giving up my control? Doesn't make any sense. So that's what's going on there. Also, simulated warfare, like war games, right? And when I say that, what I mean is, think of the idea of saber rattling, right? So if I can make a show of strength without actually attacking you, what was that? We were kind of messing around with an analogy.
Well,
on
yeah,
this.
because I asked, I was like, would that be like if I came in here and I like flashed a gun and I was like, but I'm not going to like actually do anything with it.
yeah.
Internally, I know that, but he doesn't know that. He just sees that I've got a gun.
Yeah, she goes all mafia on me here,
Yeah.
right? She walks into my bakery and he's like, you know, it's a real nice bakery you got here. Be a real shame if something bad were to happen to it. You know, all these busted up cabinets and whatnot. That could be bad, right? She's not threatening me directly, but the air of a threat is there. Show of force, a show of strength, right? That would definitely be under the rubric of that simulated warfare idea, right? I'm letting you know, or I'm actually performing a war game to show my strength, right? So when we get into like, you know, our boats coming together and acting out, like, and showing what they can do for the world to see, I want you to see that. I want you to see, this is what, say, oh no, we're just having a war game. We're just practicing at killing all, you know, going crazy, right? That's what those warships and stuff are meant to do. That's the idea of saber rattling, so that other nations, other entities go, is that the bear I really want to poke?
Yeah.
I might not come out of that on the upper hand. So
On a much like smaller scale, would that be like if I live in a house and I know that I'm armed and I put a sign in my front yard that says the owner of this house is armed?
correct.
That might deter somebody from trying to break into my house.
Absolutely.
So would that be a form of?
Yeah, and people even do it when they don't have, right?
Yeah,
They just
yeah.
stick a sign out.
Because do you really want to take that
Right.
chance?
Do you? Right now, it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah. The dice.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Look at what he did there. That was intentional. He does care. Look
I
at that.
pay attention.
So, well, sometimes. So we've got those, what we talked about, like 7 categories of information warfare. Real quick, before we get out of here
All right.
and let you go on your merry way, what about some strategies?
Some strategies. Well, we got offensive and defensive strategies. Just a little laundry list. We're going to kind of rattle off and get you through this real quick, and we'll call this a show. So defensive strategies for information warfare, detection and prevention. Seems like a good idea. Alerts, kind of the same, along that same line, is once you have detected and or prevented something, hey, let me know. Be good that I actually know that those things are happening. Responses, deterrence, any kind of deterrence. So in cyber warfare and whatnot, it would be like AV, EDR, firewalls, that kind of stuff. Stuff to stop you. Do not try this. Emergency preparedness. So if the worst does happen, we at least have a plan and things ready so that we can start to triage this thing, right? And then on the offensive side, doing things like web attacks, doing things like system hacking, doing things like man-in-the-middle, replay attacks, session hijacking, so on and so forth. All the fun stuff that we like to do, but just for the better reasons than the bad guys out there. So there you go. A couple of strategies.
Yeah, there you go. So we talked about 7 different categories, from electronic to economic to psychological. And then we talked a little bit briefly at the end about some different strategies, whether it's defensive or offensive or whatever the case may be. Some strategies that you can utilize. Yeah, strategy. Must be Italian. So thank you for joining us for this episode on information warfare. We've got more CEH V12 up next.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.